Alright, so I just got back from watching the remake of The Crow, 30 years after the original Crow came out, based off of the comic book series that came out in the very late 80s, I want to say. So I've not read the comic series, I just know a little bit about the backstory of how it was made, but I have seen the original Crow movie from 1994, and it's gathered a bit of a cult following, I believe. I have no nostalgia for it. I've only seen it recently this year. Actually, in preparation for this remake, I figured I'd watch the original. And I quite like the original, actually. I don't think it's a masterpiece, and it's not one of my favorite movies by any means, but I think it's quite good. It feels like a supernatural goth version of John Wick, except, 20 years before John Wick actually came out. But it's a good, cathartic revenge story that's very moody, and actually has a lot of good humor. And I do think Brandon Lee's performance as the Crow is very memorable. And yeah, I just think it's a decent movie. Not one of my favorites by any means, but pretty good, pretty solid. So it's definitely a movie you can remake, I think, just not like this. This movie is not very good. And if anything should tell you that a movie isn't good, it's the fact that the studio did not release the review embargo until the day it was released, like on a Friday. The Friday that the movie came out. Like, usually, if a studio knows a movie is not good, it will only release the review embargo like a day or two before the movie comes out. But they didn't release the review embargo until the very day it came out. So they really didn't want people to know how bad this was. And yeah, it's pretty bad. Its biggest sin is just that it's boring. It's like Borderlands in the sense that it's just a slog to get through. There's nothing new here, nothing original or interesting to see. I think the performances are really bad, even by Bill Skarsgård, which is fascinating because he's a good actor. I mean, speaking of John Wick, he's in John Wick 4 and he's good. I mean, he's Pennywise in the It movies. He's a good actor, but he's got nothing to work with here. And the new actress who plays Shelby, whatever her name is, I can't quite remember, the love interest, wife, character, girlfriend, she's not very good. It's just everything's flat. There's nothing to this movie besides maybe the violence is kind of creative in how he kills people, but nothing that's worth watching the movie. Yeah, it gets bogged down in its own lore. This movie compared to the first one is very lore heavy, and the lore only makes it more boring, if anything, because it's just a bunch of people talking about the rules of this world and things that he can do and can't do and reasons for why certain things are happening. And the first movie didn't concern itself with that stuff at all. It was just a fun revenge flick. You didn't need to know all the intricacies. This movie just adds a bunch of details that don't need to be there. I will give the movie credit. It does try to flesh out the romance. The romance in the first movie, you kind of fill in the blanks yourself. But honestly, I feel like filling in the blanks yourself is more effective than whatever they were doing here. They don't really have any chemistry. I didn't really care about any of them. And I was definitely more impacted by the love interest's death in the first original movie than I was in this movie, even though I felt we spent what I felt like was infinitely more time with them than we did in the first movie. But again, that just goes the power of showing rather than telling. But yeah, just a real stinker here. Don't watch this movie. I mean, again, unless you're a big fan of The Crow and you really want to see this new one, then check it out. But I think you'll be disappointed. I was, and I'm not even a big fan. So yeah, there it is. The remake of The Crow's in theaters. And if, despite all that, you're interested, you can go ahead and check it out.